When classifying a basketball layup, we need to consider the one-dimensional skill classification as more of a continuum as opposed to being one thing or the other. So we can consider a basketball layup more of a gross motor skill as opposed to a fine motor skill, more of a discrete motor skill as opposed to a continuous motor skill, and more of an open motor skill as opposed to a closed motor skill. Classifying a basketball layup according to Gentile's taxonomy requires a few more dimensions. A basketball layup can be considered a 4D skill, which is the most difficult skill to perform. This is due to the in-motion regulatory conditions, the intertrial variability, the body transport, and the object manipulation. Analyzing a basketball layup highlights some key teaching points, which include staying low and balanced on the approach, planting the left foot and driving up with the right knee, keeping both hands on the ball until releasing the shot and using the non-shooting arm to protect the ball, keeping the ball close and underneath the chin to protect it from defenders until releasing the shot, and keeping the eyes focused on the target, which is the top closest corner of the backboard, and being sure to use the backboard. Now, the layups that we saw performed at the start of the video all contain these key teaching points, which contributes to the success of these layups. When measuring performance, it's important to consider both a quantitative and qualitative approach. For the purposes of our program, the quantitative performance measure will involve performing 15 trials and recording the hit-miss ratio, and the qualitative performance measure will involve identifying the key aspects of the skill and scoring the learner out of 5 for each of those aspects. When developing a new skill, it's important to target the stages of learning. So weeks 1 and 2 will be spent targeting the cognitive stage. So this will assist the learner in understanding the key elements of the skill and also assist them in being able to interpret feedback from a variety of sources, such as augmented feedback, observation, and proprioception. Weeks 3 and 4 will be spent targeting the associative stage. So this will assist the learner in understanding how various components are interrelated, and will also assist them in being able to adjust to different situational demands. The 5th week will be spent targeting the autonomous stage. So this is when the movement pattern becomes automatic to the learner. So for the purposes of our training program, learning will be measured via a retention and transfer test. So at the beginning of the program, a pre-test will be conducted. At the end of week 4, an identical post-test will be conducted, and without any practice in between, at the beginning of week 5, a retention test will be conducted. All of these tests using the performance measures discussed previously. The transfer test will be conducted at the end of week 5 and will consist of a small-sided game situation. Fostering positive transfer is an important consideration when teaching a learner a new skill. The key to fostering positive skill transfer is taking into account the learner's past experience and making the skill relatable to the learner's past experience. Instruction and augmented feedback should be short, sharp, and concise. The best way a coach can do this is via verbal cues. Now, these verbal cues should reflect and reaffirm the key aspects of the skill that the coach wants to convey to the learner. Now, here are a few examples of some verbal cues that can be used to reaffirm the key aspects of the layup that we discussed previously.
As seen in the video, the skill was demonstrated to the learner before they were asked to replicate it. Implicit teaching was used, so no verbal instruction was given to the client before they would perform the layup. This allowed the learner to find a natural technique that worked for them while still producing the same result. Verbal feedback was then given after the initial trial to improve errors in the performance. See the video for best positioning when demonstrating the skill, and ensure to minimize distractions in the practice environment when initially demonstrating the skill. Verbal feedback was given following the skill being performed. This is known as terminal feedback. Knowledge of performance was given to the learner to improve aspects of their movement pattern, rather than focusing on knowledge of results. A faded schedule was also used, where the feedback given was gradually reduced so that the learner didn't begin to rely on that constant feedback to perform the skill successfully. The program consisted of 3 30-minute sessions per week over the course of 5 weeks. The practice sessions were distributed rather than massed, utilising a large number of shorter sessions over the weeks, as distributed practice has been shown to be more effective for learning continuous skills. The practice was initially blocked during the practice period of each skill, but as the learner became more proficient, the practice was then changed to random to improve learning and retention. Progressive part practice was used at first, where different aspects of the skill were learned and combined sequentially, as seen in the example. By the end of the program, whole practice was being used with the attention approach, in which the whole skill was performed with focus being put on certain aspects of the skill to improve upon. A layup is high in complexity but low in organisation, so part practice was seen as the most appropriate method for most of the program. The learner was motivated both extrinsically and intrinsically. The learner was set performance goals each week to keep them on track and motivated to succeed. Competition with others was introduced to give the practice more purpose and enhance motivation to improve these skills. This is an extrinsic factor that causes intrinsic motivation. The learner was also encouraged and rewarded with positive feedback whenever they improved or achieved upon one of their set goals. A closed environment with minimal distractions was used during the initial learning phase to maintain a narrow attentional focus, before an open environment was introduced during the retention phase to enhance the learner's ability to broaden their attention to multiple factors at once. Committing the layup to the long-term memory through the rehearsal of the skill in a closed environment is essential to becoming proficient in a real game situation, as it will decrease the need to focus attention on the movement patterns, and as a result, attention can then be broadened elsewhere, such as to defenders or teammates.